Hola, Jen, mi amiga Jen, how are you?
Hola, muy bien.
Muy bien.
I am awesome. I am awesome. How are you?
I'm wonderful and so excited that you're joining me for this little virtual cafecito that we're having. Our audience, my audience, I know, yay! What's in your cup? I'm curious.
It's cafe au lait.
Cafe au lait, where it's like all
Mhm.
international here. I love it. Awesome. So, our listening audience, they're performing artists. They're out there creating their own opportunities too. And a lot of times that's easier said than done, right? And so your story, I think, is so powerful. Not just as a creative yourself, as a performing artist yourself, which we'll get to here in a minute, but also just as women, as women creating our own opportunities too, right? So before we jump in, with your story, I want to hear more about your personal artistic story, right? So, your I want to hear it all. Like, what was the spark of creativity? When was this at an early age? Tell us all about how you got into the world of the arts.
Well, my toe into the artistic world literally was as a ballerina. So, from the age of 6 or 7, that was my world. And I was thrown into that world 7 days a week, starting when I was 7, and loved it. And also was introduced to the theater at that point because dancers need to learn how to act on stage. So I had a love of both types of art from an early age and was very immersed in it until I was injured. And then my dreams at that point of going professional as a dancer had to end. And so I kind of went the traditional route after that, but always, going to college and getting a corporate job and getting an MBA and things like that. But there was always this nagging thing in my brain that I was not really being my authentic self this whole time. And people where I was working would tell me, you should be a weather girl. You should be on TV. And it was very strange because it was every place I worked. They were like, you're not really a typical finance person. And after I heard that enough times, I'm thinking, you're right. I think it's time for me to get back to who I really am and what my passion is. So when my husband retired from the Air Force, he supported me in going back to what I loved and who I really am at
Mm.
my core. And so that was about 7 years ago. And that's when my act 2 kind of occurred. So the spark was as a dancer and through that world and being in theater. And then there was a break. And then now it's act 2.
Act two. So tell us more about Act two because you said the world of dance and theater merged eventually. So that means auditioning, checking out listings and all that stuff. So how did you start flexing those muscles, both in Act one and Act two?
So yeah, so obviously things had changed a lot from act 1 to act 2. Most of my auditions were because the internet when I was very young and in high school and doing theater and dance was not around, at least not to be putting audition notices out. So I got into community theater and high school theater in a different way, learned auditions through how you learned from back then. And now it's all about learning how to get those breakdowns electronically and digitally now and learning where do you go to find out for these things, getting an agent. So I had to learn about that because when I came back for act 2, I decided that I wanted to learn about the world of film, which is a bit different from theater. So I had a lot to learn there. I started getting agents and also starting in background roles to try to learn the language of film. And from there, started to network, and they told me the places to go to get auditions, in addition to what my agent was sending me. So it was a big learning curve, but I had a lot of people that helped me along the way. So you learn that it's a community of people that will help you and navigate through this whole thing, because there's just so much out there, and sometimes it's overwhelming.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I keep hearing this theme of collaboration and support, right? It makes a huge difference when you know you have your tribe, when you have a partner that supports you in this, because it is so hard, so hard. And
Yes.
you're trying to make your mark in an industry that is about somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, right? And making a name for yourself. Now, did you some people in the start of their journey are super fortunate and find that they're just booking job after job after job. How was it for you at the start? Did you ever have those seasons where it felt easy to get booked and blessed?
Oh my, it is such a roller coaster. Oh my goodness. Um, it's feast or famine. That's what I've experienced. When I first started, it felt like, maybe because I was new, it seemed almost like I was a new face to some of these casting directors. It seemed like I was booked quite a bit. Then I got into my first slump, and it really did make me question things, because I was like, this is different. I'm doing the same things. I felt like, as far as how many things I was submitting for, the types of things I was submitting for, my auditions. And at that point, a lot more auditions were face to face than now. That has completely changed in the world of film, because of the pandemic. But then it was a mixture of sending your tapes in electronically versus being in person. So I felt like I was doing all the same things, but I was not getting the same callbacks and bookings. And I talked to people and I was like, is it something I'm doing? Is it me? And you find out it really is just, it's kind of peaks and valleys. And you have, if it wasn't for people telling me that this is the way it is, I might have gotten out of it a long time ago. But it really is the nature of the business, and it really is not. It's not anything that you are doing or not doing necessarily. It's just what's going on at the time. And so I hung in there, and what I did is I filled my time by getting more coaching, taking more classes, building my skill set.
Love that.
And yeah, it was energizing, and it kept me up to date, and it kept my skills fresh, because that is indeed what you don't want to not be prepared for when the peak comes, because it's going to come. And all of a sudden you're going to have the period where you'll have a lot of bookings at once, and you'll be like, so you have to be ready. You have to be ready.
I love that little plug for continued education, right? And keeping your skills sharp. That is fantastic. Did you also, I mean, there's also the narrative, of the starving artist per se, where you're hustling for side jobs and stuff like that. Like, so I know that you left the world of finance, which sounds, when people hear that, they think 9 to 5. So how did you work through the mindset and also the logistics of being okay with picking up, side jobs and being okay with that? Because, or I shouldn't assume, did you feel okay with that?
Yeah. Well, I have to admit, my very first year was a transition year where I actually was a consultant for a company I'd worked for before, and they allowed me to work 20 hours a week
Okay.
from, whenever I wanted to. But that lasted about a year. After that, once I kind of was in the world and understood the nature of these side gigs and realizing that you needed to be more available because you just didn't know when these gigs were going to pop up. And even when you did, you didn't exactly know when you would be needed. I had to adjust. It was somewhat of an adjustment because it also impacted, of course, my family and things like that. So we had to have a discussion about what that was going to look like. And again, it goes back to the support. If I hadn't had that support, I probably would not have moved forward, but I'm blessed that I do. And it is a different way of functioning. And you know, you have to love it. I mean, it has to be,
Mm.
you have to say to yourself, you know, can I live without doing this? And if the answer is no, which it is for me, then you do what you need to do. I mean, and it doesn't seem like a burden, but it is a lot of juggling. And you come up with processes. You come up with once you know what to expect, you try to figure out in advance how you're gonna handle things at home and et cetera. So it isn't super easy. It's not for everyone, Melissa.
No, it's not. It's not. That's why we're seeing more and more spaces, communities for people out there living the dream per se, in the world of performing arts and all the disciplines. And like you said, I have found this to be true too, that where there is thriving and flourishing, whether it is you participating in an opportunity created by another person or you're doing your own thing, that it's because you do have a support system, because you are so focused and so passionate about what you want to do and you love what you do, right? So let's talk about,
Yeah.
I know that you and I over coffee were talking about going through those seasons, those famine seasons, right? Where it feels like I'm doing all the right things, but for whatever reason, the gatekeepers of, the audition opportunities we're going out for, or whatever it may be, it seems like we're just hitting door after door after door is being closed. So, did that create any pivots for you, or spark any other ideas for you?
100%, Melissa. I mean, I'm here to tell you in my darkest hours of questioning. I mean, I wrote all of my acting teachers and said, be honest with me. Am I meant for this business? I mean, I just am not seeing what the results that I want. And they all said, no, of course you are. Da, da, da. And I said, I think what happened was that when the pandemic hit, of course, it gave us all some time to think.
Sure.
I don't know what it was. I just all of a sudden had it kind of just rose up in me. I'm like, I cannot wait for these things to come to me.
Mm.
I've there's the closed doors and there's opportunities behind it. And like you said, some gatekeepers are keeping me from opening the door. I'm not taking it anymore. I'm kicking the door down. And so I just decided I'm gonna start to make my own content, create the roles I want to play, and I think other women in particular want to play. I want to tell stories. I want to tell other people's stories. It just, I never, ever, ever thought I was going to be doing this. And once I started to call around to other women to see if they were interested, and it just blew up from there. And it has been the greatest pivot of my life. I mean,
Awesome.
I mean, the greatest pivot of my life. I can't tell you how busy I am now, how creatively energized I am. I mean, it's the best. It
That's
really is.
amazing. That's amazing, Jen. Okay, tell us more about some of those opportunities that you created. Was this a specific show, a specific film, or a specific company? Tell us more.
Yes. So out of that was born my first production company that I co-own with two other amazing women and actresses, um, Gina Dobson and Carla Turner. And it's called BAB on Three Productions. It's our mission is to tell stories that, will primarily about women issues. But it's really about anyone who feels disenfranchised in society. And our we came up with this idea based on things that we had experienced as older actresses over the age of 40. And it caused us to think about a series about a comedy series. We were approaching it from the sense of humor aspect about some of the things that we have personally experienced in the entertainment industry. And these women, these characters vow that we're going to break those stereotypes and we're going to show the world that women over 40 are, awesome. And we still have it and that kind of thing. So that's the first series that we've been creating, and it's been 2 years in the making, and we just shot episode 5. So it's just, I can't even tell you how the process has been. And it's just amazing from so many aspects, and we've had so many people supporting us, of all ages, men, women, and it's just incredible.
Oh my gosh, Jen, how so inspiring. I gotta ask, what does BAB stand for?
Um, can I say things on here? Okay. Well, it's badass bitches. That's what it is.
That's what it
Yes,
is. Yeah.
it is, and it's our battle cry. The three characters always do, and that's where the on three comes from.
Yes.
So we kind of say on three, and then we put our hands in, and then badass bitches. So it's a movement, Melissa.
Yeah.
And what we're inviting people to this movement and hope that they support us, but we're really trying to support them and in our message through humor. And yeah, so that's what it is. And obviously comedy's probably one of the hardest genres to tackle, but we went for it.
Because you're badass bitches. Exactly. Exactly.
We
So
are.
I love that you say it's a movement. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see like I can see Jen, I can see you like literally like light up your body language, everything just like whoo, right? Because you believe in this cause, you believe in it so much. It kind of goes back to your advice of, can you see yourself doing anything else? This is an interesting conversation. I'd love to chat about it with you. I know that I work with in the singing space with professional and pre-professional artists where there has to be this balance of identity. Sure, you love doing this, right? You adore it. It brings you life. But is it your identity? Because heaven forbid, what would happen, right, if you had to do another huge life pivot and something happened that prevented you from doing this? Are you still going to be a fulfilled person or an integrated whole person? And so we walk that fine line sometimes, of making sure when we're feeling in a funk, it's probably because there's been this huge tangled up yarn ball in our soul and our head of this feels like it's being taken away from me, and then I don't feel like myself. But yet, if I find that I can ground myself over here, and it just so happens that, for instance, I fancy myself an encourager, but I get to do that through the avenue of, singing and voice coaching and so many things, right? It's a vehicle, and it's the number one vehicle that I feel passionate about doing it with, right? So when you talk about being so passionate about this and not seeing yourself do anything else, do you ever battle with that sometimes, even as awesome as it's going for you right now with BAB on 3, Bab on 3? Do you ever find
Yeah.
yourself like, I still have to have some boundaries in place to make sure that this doesn't become like my whole world?
Yes. Yes. I mean, it's funny that you say that, because I kind of fashion myself as someone, I live by the carpe diem motto. I always have since I was really young.
Mm.
Um, and my goal in life has always been to inspire people. So in many different ways, in all of the roles that I've ever had in my life, including in the corporate world, that is really at my core who I feel like I'm trying to be. Inspire people to do things they don't think they can do. And so my vehicle is through this, and through, I'm still dancing, I'm still on point, I'm doing things. And what I hope through social media and film and dance and all that is to show people that whatever it is that they think they can't do, whatever the barriers are, for them to try. Because I get people saying all the time, you're inspiring me to go back and take these classes, or I used to play the guitar when now I'm going to go do this, and I just thought I was too old, or whatever. And that at my core is who I am. So yes, it's great to be able to do it through these artistic vehicles, but if I didn't have those, I still would be trying to do that. So I think I'd definitely be fulfilled still playing that role of my life.
Oh, that is awesome. And I'm a recipient of that because you were also my dance teacher. And that was, pre-pandemic and even during a little bit. And I mean, I still see the fruits of that inspiration in my life now as, a kind of sort of triple threat, or I say a singer who moves now more
Yes,
gracefully.
you definitely are that triple threat.
Thank you, my
Definitely
love.
are.
So thank you. But yeah, I can see that so clearly. I got to ask, so what is with part of your integration is knowing I'm an inspirational person. What's a non-artistic related activity or even a different discipline, right? That you feel like fuels your soul that you can come back to and then you come back refreshed to the art that you're in right now with film.
I I think that for me, a lot of it is writing. And I used to do a lot more writing. I used to, when I was younger, I wrote poetry, I journaled. I really enjoy the writing part, which oddly enough now is intersecting with BAB on 3, because I'm one of the 3 writers. All 3 of us produce and write and act and things. So getting into, my goal is to get back into more of that writing as an expression, and as something that could also inspire people depending on the topic of my writing, and writing articles or writing poetry, like I said. So I I've been trying to get back into that, and I think that that's a goal. And now that you mention it, now I'm really going to put it down and do it even more, because that does energize me, because I'm getting things from here onto paper, and that's the catharsis, and
Yes.
then reading it back and having that reaction to it, and then hopefully it impacting people who read it.
I love that. I love
So
that. Well, you heard it here. You're going to go do it. And I'm sure
yes, I know, I'm writing it down.
That's right. And people are listening to this too, thinking, ooh, yeah, maybe I need to go back and revisit that, right? That made you feel like you come alive. So I know that we're going to put all this in the show
Yes.
notes too, but if people want to get connected with what's going on with BA Beyond 3, how would they go about doing that? Where are you at?
Yes. So we have a Facebook uh, site, and we also have an Instagram page. So it's BAB on 3 Productions on both of those social media sites. We also are on YouTube.
Yeah.
So we have dropped so if you find us BAB on 3 Productions on YouTube, the pilot and the episode 2 have dropped, and episode 3 is dropping next Monday.
Fantastic. So by
So
the time this airs, yeah, you may be able to catch all 3
yes.
episodes. That is so, so exciting. Jen, thank you so much for taking time out of that busy production schedule, I'm sure, to really use your gifts and inspire our listeners. Before you leave, what is something that's igniting your passion right now? And it could be as deep as I just read this huge philosophical book, or as surface level as I just found my favorite coffee on sale at the grocery store.
I to be honest with you, it's it's the same thing. It always is. It's really I when I see people struggling, whether it's fellow actors, but also friends, family, anyone who's struggling with anything in their life. I think that's what I want to be able to help them get through those things. And obviously there's a multitude of things, but that is really what I do everything for. I want so passionately to make people laugh. I want to give them inspiration to just take this step that they didn't think they could, or get through this illness or injury that they're going through right now, and they need something to get them over that. Everything I do is focused on that. That really is my passion.
I love it.
That fuels everything.
I love it. What a beautiful thing to fuel you in every single decision you make and every piece of art you create as well. Thank you so much, Jen. You're amazing.
Thank you. Back at you.